I have Renee Amachayev with me today, and she's going to talk all about her profession, which is in wealth management, financial advising, stock. But let me just give you her proper title. So she owns and operates RA Wealth Management, and it's a wealth management and financial advisory firm. She also represents being a woman in a field that is male dominated at this point. And I just want to reference you back to another video I've made around this topic of equal pay, gender discrimination in the workplace. But for now, we're going to focus on what it's like to work in the world of wealth management, financial advising. And Renee, welcome. I turn it on over to you. Thanks for being here.
Hi, hello everyone.
So tell us a little bit, Renee, about what do you do? We'll keep it simple.
What do? I take people's money and make more money. That's probably the simplest way of putting it. I am a professional licensed investment advisor, and most people would probably think of that job more commonly known as a stockbroker. However, it's quite a bit more than that. I have licensing that also allows me to analyze individuals' financial situation and then make appropriate recommendations based on their individual circumstances for how they can achieve different financial goals. And so typically what I do is I will sit down with an individual. I work with people of all ages, people that are just starting out to people that have many millions of dollars. And typically the reason they come to see me is they have some type of a financial need. Let's say they, would like to save and invest money. Maybe there's a specific goal for investing that money and a use down the road. And they just need some advice to determine what's the best way to invest that. What are the options? How should they be investing their money? How should they be spending their money? And looking at their overall picture. So I typically will work with lawyers, accountants, CPAs as well to help put together a plan for people throughout their life. And that typically involves retirement money, college savings, money to buy a house, those types of things.
Thank you. That's such a nice overview. Tell us, how did you get into this line of work? Like, what would be the pathway?
I got into this line of work by accident more than anything. It was not something I had intentionally set out to do. I didn't even plan to go to college, honestly. My mom and dad are immigrants from Germany. I was the first generation in my family to be educated in America. So my parents had no experience with the American school system whatsoever. English is my second language, so I learned English when I started kindergarten, and in that process, I had actually wanted to go into literature and arts and more along that line, but my mom is a CPA type and really kind of drove numbers into my head and was very focused on me learning about money and being able to handle that. She would take me to work with her in the summer. I learned how to do accounting, and it was just something that I hated, but I knew and did. And as I started evolving into my own path, I became a little self-destructive in high school. Towards the end, we moved to Sonoma County my junior year, so I had to leave all of my friends at the very end of high school before graduation, and I pretty much rebelled. I just basically started cutting classes, not caring. I was a honor student prior to that, straight A's my entire academic career, and by my senior year, I basically ran short of credits to graduate after cutting so much and eroding extra credits. I could have graduated my junior year, But unfortunately, we just didn't know any of this because my parents didn't, grow up in the education system in America. So at the end of the day, I dropped out of high school at 18, about a week before graduation, thinking that I was going to be clever and pull that off without my parents figuring it out. Of course, they figured it out, and one thing led to another. I almost got kicked out of my house. I was given the ultimatum of getting a job and paying rent. So I did. I got a job working in a clothing store. After a few years, I felt that that was not going to propel me where I wanted to go. Even though I was in management at age 18 and doing very well, retail just wasn't the future that I saw for myself. So unfortunately, I had an accident when I was 19. And after that accident, I needed to move back home and get some help with recovery. And at that point, I had talked to my parents about going back to school. So even though I had dropped out of high school, I never took the GED. I took the placement test for the junior college, Santa Rosa Junior College, placed in, did my, math and 1A, and did all of my prereqs and lower division at Santa Rosa Junior College. Had a very successful time there while I worked part-time in a doctor's office, and ended up transferring to University of California, Davis, and through the transfer program at the JC, and graduated from Davis. So my major was not in finance. It was in international relations and politics. I actually planned on going into some type of government work. I applied twice to the CIA as a covert operative and was wanted by the CIA twice, and did not go into the CIA because my husband absolutely had a meltdown about it. So I stuck with this career and ended up here quite by accident by attending a International Trade Association luncheon that was hosted by the Sonoma County Economic Development Board. And it was just a loose group of business owners that were involved in international trade in Sonoma County that got together once a month to talk about business and figure out ways to create more opportunities in the international markets. And that was something I was interested in. And through that, I met a gentleman that worked at, at that time it was Merrill Lynch. And he was a senior advisor doing what I'm doing. He was looking for a young person to bring into the business to eventually take over the business. And that ended up being me. And that's how I ended up on my journey in financial advising.
So what I hear from that is the concept of, we have planned happenstance, which is this concept of like preparation meets opportunity. So things look like luck, but they're not, you prepared, but also the opportunity was in the networking that you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I had no idea what I wanted to do when I grew up. Absolutely none. So it was a real struggle for me to figure out a career. And honestly, I've really excelled in this career. And to this day, I laugh because I just never wanted to do anything with math. Not that I do a lot of math in this job, because the way that this job works doesn't require me. A lot of other people do that part for me. I can take the information and then use that information to do what I need to do. I don't have to do all of that part of it. But it still surprises me that, conceptually, all the math that goes into what I do, I'm very comfortable with it, even though I've resisted it almost my whole life.
Yeah. That's good to know, because math is always a question that comes up, and yeah. So
there's a lot of fear around math, and I think that when you're learning math, it's really hard to see the practical applications. And you and I have had this discussion many times because I've lectured to this class a lot. The basic concepts of finance and budgeting and knowing how to deal with money, most people don't understand that. And it's the one thing that I see continually through my career. I don't care how educated you are. I work with doctors, I work with lawyers, I work with all kinds of highly educated professionals. We're not taught how to manage and budget and deal with our financial lives in school. You have to seek that out on your own. And most people don't. They're so intimidated by it.
Yeah, that's true. Can you walk us through, Renee, a day in the life of a financial advisor? Like what are you doing?
Sure. Well, I can give you a couple of examples right now. So right now, just this weekend, unfortunately, one of my very long-term clients of about 15 years passed away yesterday. And so I have the type of relationship with families that, I'm one of the first people that gets that phone call. I got it Sunday morning, and it's because I've worked with a family for many, many years. And so when there's a major transition like this in someone's life, it typically deals with finances, and there's a lot of things that go in it. So for this particular example, I'm dealing with someone that is at the end of their life. I can very well deal with someone that's at the very beginning of their saving and investing life. And that would be a very different approach in what I'm doing than dealing with an individual who's in their 80s and 90s and passes away, and now that money is moving on to the heirs. So there's a lot of complexity. Mainly, my relationship with clients will start with typically a referral. Somebody will say, give Renee a call, she can help you achieve a goal. So let's say the goal is somebody in their 30s wants to start saving for retirement. They have children that they want to put through college, and they own a house, they have some cars, and they have some debt. How are they going to deal with all of that? How are they going to achieve those goals? One of the first things I will do is sit down and say, what are your goals? What is it that you want to achieve? So we go for the big picture. And then we sit down and we look at what do they have in terms of income coming in, money that they earn, inheritance, investments, any sources of income. And then we look at what are all their expenses? How much of that income has to go out just to survive, to cover everything that needs to be covered, and what is left. And that is the portion that I can then begin to deal with, because once we have a handle on what's in and what's out, then we know what we're working with. And sometimes I have to help people make adjustments on the in and outflow. Maybe they've got too much stuff that they're spending money on that really isn't serving them, and taking away from having a pot of money aside that we can work to make it grow. So I always tell people, think about what you're doing with your money. Is it benefiting you in the long term, or is it a short-term gratification, needs versus wants, immediate gratification versus long-term gratification? Because if you're dreaming about this long-term need or want, and you're continually focusing on feeding the short-term desires, you're never going to reach that long-term goal. And so my job is to kind of lay all of that out for people and then say, all right, this is where you are. We can fix all of this. Let's straighten you out so that you are putting money, or maybe you have all this money, you don't know what to do with it. Then I come in and I start looking at how can we invest that money. I look at the stock market. I look at your real estate assets. I look at alternative investments. And I then start to carve out that pie of money that we have, and we start allocating it into different directions with the idea that that money is going to earn money. And so it's that compounding earnings that eventually will help achieve the goal. As your life changes, as things happen, I help you adjust. We make changes. Maybe there's a crisis that we need to divert money to cover, then we do that. Maybe you come into a windfall, then we add that. We change, so it's a constant moving target. It's not a one shoe fits all. In every family, it's different. And the client that I'm dealing with this week, once the death certificate is processed, I will be working with the attorney. I will be working with the CPA. We will have to go through and change a lot of legal documents. So I have to have a very broad, deep understanding of legal rules around how accounts are set up, ownership, the way things transfer, particularly now when somebody dies, transferring all that wealth. There's a lot of legal paperwork and information that goes into that. And I have the responsibility of making sure that I'm providing proper advice so that all of that processes. And if I make a mistake, I have the liability of that mistake as well. I can be fined, I can go to jail. So, you know, it's not a job that does not come with a tremendous amount of responsibility and liability either.
Yeah, that's
And
cool.
as an advisor, I have a fiduciary responsibility to make appropriate recommendations as well. So, you know, you really have to understand an individual's financial background and means in order to make recommendations for how they invest that money. That's pretty much what I do. And then all the stuff that happens in between in somebody's life and questions. They call me, should I buy a car? You know, my daughter wants to go study a year abroad. I don't know how I'm going to pay for that. And then we adjust, we shift.
What I'm hearing is you need a huge skill set and understanding of all these various roles that intertwine, and then a lot of analytical skills. So analyzing and being able to forecast, seeing things at a deeper level, but then interpersonal skills, because money is, you know, it can bring up a lot for people. It can be scary and exciting and all these things. And you're working with couples and families. So you have that connection to, yeah, maybe in closing, Renee, since we only have another minute or so, what kind of person would thrive in this field?
So I think a very outgoing person would thrive, but I think there is a risk. This is the type of job where you have to be a very good listener. You have to instill trust and confidence in the people that you are working with. And I think the thing that probably has surprised me the most about what makes a successful advisor, or at least has made me successful, I used to spend hours preparing for meetings, graphs, charts, all the information on a stock. And I'm telling you, my clients glaze over. They don't know what I'm talking about. They don't understand it. That's not what the meeting is about. And years ago, I stopped doing that. I know what I'm doing. I don't need to prove it to my clients. That's why they're with me. They want me to know what they need and to understand that. And that is on a much more emotional level. It's about listening. It's psychology. I mean, I've had situations where I've had couples in my office literally get in screaming fights because their money values are so different because their life experiences growing up. And it doesn't matter what stock or what that has nothing to do with what's going to bring them together in their financial lives. My job is to figure out how to understand what their triggers are, their emotions are around money, and then work around in a way that, everybody can feel comfortable. So psychology, sales, listening skills are critical. And have very strong analytical skills. I like the chaos of, all these papers, and I think being able to follow a paper trail, to me, that's like detective work, figuring out, there's always a paper trail with money. Oh my gosh, you can dig and dig, and there's always a trail. So those types of skills, being able to do research and if you've got good, strong people skills, then this is a great career to marry the two.
Yeah, I'm hearing that. And I think people don't always put those two together. So
Oh, no, it's a great career. I mean, I'm about to celebrate my 22nd year this year, so.
I'm so glad. Thank you for breaking it down for us. And again,
Absolutely.
so appreciate your time. Thank you, Renee.
Well, as always, if any of your students have any interest in delving a little deeper into this profession or what I do, I always like to offer that opportunity to your class, and I would strongly encourage them to send me an email or give me a call. I'd be happy to talk to them. And then I think in the past I've sent you a number of links, budgeting worksheets, a couple of different colleges across the country that specialize in this type of business financial planning. So, you know, there's a lot of resources for individuals that are really interested in getting into this particular aspect where, you know, it's really a sales job is really what it is.
Well, thank you. I'll make sure to share all those resources. And yeah, thank
Okay.
you.
All right, Robin, it was good to see you.
You too. Take care.
Good luck with everybody on this new digital world.